It could even be that they live such a normal life that you could forget this is a family that produces.
George was unable to produce a Patronus after Fred's death.
Yeah. Welcome back, witches, wizards, and muggles, to Squib's Corner. I'm Jeremiah,
And I'm Andrew.
and today we got a little Squibler action going on for you guys. So, in the beginning of the book, we talked about the Weasleys, and I kind of I think the two of us want to. I don't know, when you hear the Weasleys, you go, oh yeah, the Weasleys, but they're so important in the Wizarding world. They're so important to the books. I know it's called Harry Potter, but just everything going on with the Weasleys, the support, the Second War, and even before Harry Potter, the books even started, there's information about them. So I don't know.
I would say, like, to your point, Harry Potter is the main character, but the main family in the story throughout is the Weasley family.
Oh, polar opposite of the Dursleys, too. So it's nice
Sure.
to have that. It's an extreme comparison, too. I'm actually a little disappointed that the Dursleys aren't in the books more than they are, but I get it. It makes sense. You got to evolve.
Sure.
You got to, but yeah, it's. Well, I mean, for two books, right? For two books, and you already have a perfect idea of the Dursleys. It's
Well,
great.
and they do, the only time that she can really expound on the Dursleys is during the summer times.
Yeah.
Most of the story takes place at Hogwarts or later in the story on magical quests. So
Yeah.
it would have been. I think it would have been difficult or maybe even a bit boring for the readers to be like, okay, enough with the Dursleys. Let's get me back to Hogwarts. Get me back to.
I really like the Dursleys, just
Sure.
because, just like the Weasleys, they're relatable. I mean, they're
Sure.
a family that's out there. Not just one family, but many. I mean, people listening to this have been in that situation, and people listening to this have been in the situation with the Weasleys. So
Sure.
yeah, it's real nice. But so yeah, we'll just go ahead and jump right into
Jump
this.
in. Let's go.
When you hear the name Weasley, the first thing that probably pops into your head is either the Weasley twins or Ron. I mean, the Weasley twins for sure. For me, I think in my head they trump Ron. The Weasley twins. I think of them first. What about you?
I think of the whole family. Like when you say the Weasleys, I picture the picture in Egypt. When
Oh yeah,
they're all together. Or I picture the wedding when they're all there. Like I think. But like if I had to say, I think I would picture Ron before I pictured the twins.
Ron's main character. I mean,
Ron's a main character,
but the
but
Weasleys, the twins, they just do so much. And
oh yeah, oh yeah.
it's kind of like, you see the twins and you just think, oh, practical jokesters. Man, those two are smart. They are so smart. Yeah. So, or it could be the fact that each and every one of them have bright red hair. It could even be the fact that the family is extremely loyal, down to a fault at times. It could even be that they live such a normal life that you could forget this is a family that produces extraordinary people. It could even be that this is one of the most relatable families we possibly have ever seen on TV or in a book. When you see the Weasleys, you think familiarity, relatability, family. You think, wow, I could see them being my real family. The Weasleys are present through all 7 movies and books. We see them in the first book, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, as a matter of fact, almost halfway through it. Chapter 6, the journey from platform 9 3/4 down to the last page and chapter of book 7, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. 7. Throughout the book, the number 7 is a difficult piece of the plot to pass up. Sometimes it's staring you right in the face. And others, it's ever so subtly hidden, mixed in the story. For instance, the Weasley family has 7 children. But Why 7? It could be that Molly always wanted a daughter, so they just kept trying to have children until they had one at 7, which ties into this and the journey to destroy all 7 Horcruxes. It seems that one of Ron's fears is that he might be the least favorite child. Before he broke the locket with the sword of Gryffindor, the Horcrux fought back saying, least loved, always by the mother who craved a daughter. Least loved now by the girl who prefers your friend. Second best, always eternally overshadowed.
And I think they did a fantastic job in the movie of that scene. Like that.
Oh, you could even see the look, the worry on his face,
Oh
everything
my
about
gosh.
it.
Yeah, that was really well done. So, it could have been, they just they wanted a daughter, so they kept having a daughter. Or, they kept having kids till they had a daughter, and that ended up as 7. More likely, JK obviously loves the magical theme of 7. So let's take a look at the 7 kids before we get down to the parents. And the oldest, let's start with Bill. Pop quiz. Do you know Bill's full name?
No, I don't.
William Arthur Weasley.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, William Arthur. Yeah. He was too young to really be in the first Wizarding War, but he was obviously in the Order of the Phoenix during the second Wizarding War. And Bill's cool. Bill is described as long hair, and he's got the earring, he's a cool dude. He works for the Wizarding Bank, Gringotts. And eventually he was able to marry Partvila Fleur Delacour from what school?
Beauxbaton or Beauxbaton.
Beauxbaton. And for, at least before he was married, it really doesn't get too much into it, but he lives and works in Egypt. And so he is he finds treasure. Like he tries to break spells and stuff and find.
Well, I mean, coming from, I guess, where do the Weasleys live?
I mean, the UK. They live somewhere in the UK.
I mean, for me, the UK seems like a great place to live. I could be wrong. I could be right. But from going from there to Egypt, like Egypt, one of the Weasleys lives in Egypt. That's awesome. That is,
yeah, super cool. Yeah, super cool. Yeah. He was secret keeper when he and Fleur lived at Shell Cottage, which played a huge part at at least in Deathly Hallows. And he and Fleur had 3 kids. Victoire, I'm sure it's like Victoire, I don't know. She's French. Dominique and Louis. So those are all kind of French names.
Yeah.
And Bill was one of 2 Weasleys that didn't play Quidditch. He and Percy.
Yeah, I don't see him at Quidditch.
Yeah, he and Percy didn't play Quidditch, but he's super cool. And get ready because I'm going to put you on the spot. What was your books or movies? Doesn't matter. What was your favorite Bill moment?
Favorite Bill moment.
I'll tell you mine while you're thinking about it, just because I know I'm putting you on the spot.
The one I can remember would have to be him at Shell Cottage when Harry wants to talk to, what's his name?
You can do it.
He wants
You're on
to
the
talk
spot.
to.
Do it. Say it right now. You can do it.
You're making
you know
it
what
worse.
It is.
He wants to talk to. Grip hook. Yeah. And he just walks up to Harry, and I assume it's not just Harry, Ron, and Hermione. A combination, a combination of the 3, and he just warns them that hey, if you're about to strike a deal with Grip Hook, you better know what you're getting yourself into. I wouldn't do it. He became real serious.
A lot.
Yeah, it became real serious and real, almost father-like at that point. So that was kind of nice.
Yeah, we learn a lot of, not a lot, but we learn about goblins from from Bill, and it's interesting. When he says that goblins always see the creator of a thing as the owner. Whoever purchases it is just just kind of borrowing it. My favorite Bill moment is something that we never see. It's when after Ron leaves Harry and Hermione in book 7 and comes back, he goes, "Yeah, I went to Shell Cottage. I didn't go see my family. Ron and or Fred and George, they would have killed me. They would have." He's like, "But Bill's always been kind to me. Bill understood."
Yeah,
and,
down to earth.
Yeah, so I was like, that really makes Bill cool. And I think we've said it before, in real life, the actor that plays Bill, he is the real life son of the actor that played Mad-Eye Moody.
Oh, yeah.
So that's cool.
He's the polar opposite of Percy, which is awesome.
He is the polar opposite of Percy. And we'll talk about some cool fan theories with Percy. But let me ask you one more thing.
Yeah.
What scar did Bill end up with?
He had a scar across his face from a werewolf, right?
And which werewolf?
I would say Fenrir.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And when did that happen?
Probably Half-Blood Prince.
Half-Blood Prince, yeah. When Draco, figures out how to get Death Eaters, yeah, that was.
But he didn't quite convert him. Just
well, he didn't bite him.
Yeah,
he didn't bite him, and it wasn't a full moon. I think
it was just a scratch across the face. Yeah,
but he might. I like how Lupin says, but he might like his steaks rare from now on.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the only downside to that, then okay, fine.
Yeah, I'm in.
Hey, they say the more rare your red meat, the better. So I don't know if it's true.
And that was a cool, which let I love J.K. as a Rowling. She's a very layered author. I thought that after that happened to Bill, a really cool moment with Molly Weasley and Fleur Delacour. A really cool moment with those two.
Yeah, Fleur stood up for herself, and that was nice. Yeah. So now we get to Charlie. He was also part of the Second Order. He worked for the Dragon Reserve in Romania. So we have Egypt, we have Romania. These people, they're not just staying near the nest. They're exploring. He is the only child from the 7 Weasley children who didn't marry or have children.
I wish that was true.
What, is it not true?
Think of one other child that didn't marry or have children.
Oh, well, yeah. To be fair, he didn't get the opportunity.
He didn't get a chance.
Yeah, Charlie, I don't know if you know more about Charlie, but with Charlie, I think, is the least known of all of the Weasleys, and he's not even in the movies, right?
Nope, no, he's never in the movies. I don't even know. He's probably in the Egypt picture. I bet if we looked it up, there would be another actor in the Egypt picture. But no, he's not in the movies, and he doesn't he's at. So let's think. In this book, we only get letters from him because of Norbert.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I guess technically we've seen him in the book.
Yeah,
the first book already.
Well, I don't think we see him in the book at all.
Well, maybe not see him, but he's talked about.
Yeah. So he's talked about one of Hagrid's favorite pupils. Charlie Weasley. We definitely see him in Goblet of Fire during the Triwizard Tournament. We see him at the wedding.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Oh, that wedding. That's another great scene.
Yeah.
Great stuff right there.
I don't remember if we see him in the Second War. I know we see Bill and we see Percy and the twins. I assume Charlie's there, but I don't...
I'll have to go back and look and see if any dragons show up to that war.
No dragons show up. No dragons are in the war. There are other magical creatures in the war.
So maybe he didn't show up then. Because I would assume he would have brought dragons.
Well, I mean, it's not like Game of Thrones where they can control the dragons. They're just making sure that
They're
Yeah.
safe. Yeah.
What what position did Charlie play in Quidditch?
I want to say seeker.
He was a seeker.
Yeah.
Yes. And he was the last Gryffindor cup. House Cup was won.
Oh yeah. Well,
When
not to mention
Charlie Weasley.
each and every one of these kids. I don't know why it did not get included, but they're all in Gryffindor. Maybe
All
it
of
was
them
just,
are in Gryffindor. Yep.
yeah. Maybe I just thought everybody would know, but yeah, every single one of them, all 7, Gryffindor. Every time
Which
they
I
put on
really
the hat,
feel, yeah,
another Weasley, eh?
yeah, and I really feel like Percy could have gone Slytherin.
Oh, for sure.
Just as
I mean,
just,
he redeemed himself, but
he did redeem himself. But
a
as far
Slytherin
as the
can redeem him or
ambition,
herself. Yeah.
yeah, there were obviously good Slytherins that
Well,
redeemed themselves.
Percy, he tries to do what he thinks is right, which is admirable, but it's to a fault. You know, when you do something to a fault, you kind of cross that line there, that boundary.
Well, and she showed, and again, this is a very underlying theme in her writing. The Weasleys were poor; they were not wealthy. So
He carried himself in a wealthy, dignified way. Though.
well, and so that's the thing. You know, you do have kids that grow up not having a lot of wealth, and then they like, oh my gosh, I've got a job in the ministry and I can make it big here, and I don't want my family holding me back. And it's like, well, that's not really how it works. But yeah, Percy's. Let's talk about Percy.
Yeah.
Percy also did not play Quidditch. He did bet on a Quidditch game with his Ravenclaw girlfriend. But he became undersecretary to the minister just after the war, the Second War. So that's kind of cool. Well, after school. No, after school.
It would be after school, yeah.
Yeah, after school. Not this would be before the war.
Well, I think this is after.
Oh wait, no, this is after
the
war. Yeah,
fact.
undersecretary to the. So okay, so who's this?
I mean, it's both after school.
Yeah,
and
after school, after the war.
Yeah.
Who became Minister for Magic after the war?
Oh crap! Why do
One of my favorite characters, and I thought
I know who it is, but I can't think of the name off the top of my head.
I loved the actor. I thought he did a great
I
job.
can see him. He's
Whatever you say about Dumbledore, he's got style.
yeah. Throw the name out there.
Kingsley Shacklebolt.
Yeah.
Kingsley Shacklebolt. He became the Minister of Magic immediately following the war. So he became undersecretary for him. Then he became head of the Department of Magical Transport in 2007, when the wizard who had taken up that war retired. So he got that. He was also the junior assistant to the Minister for Magic right after school. Wasn't he?
That might have been during his Hogwarts years, because he was working for the minister. Or was he still in school then?
No, yeah, he was still in school. There's no way, because he was working with. He was
Cornelius.
under Barty Crouch at one point. And what was Barty Crouch? He was some like diplomatic. Let's see. Because remember, head of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement. So here's the one, and head of the Department of International Magical Cooperation. So Barty Crouch, which we'll get into him, he's in obviously book 4. So Barty Crouch Sr. used to be head of law enforcement. Then he stopped that. Then he was International Magical Cooperation, and that's where Percy was working with him.
Yeah.
He even, when all of that happened, he was, even doing some of his correspondence. Anyway, so he did get married. And like we said, again, most everybody's read the books or watched the movies. There was a falling out with Percy and his family. The only one that kind of had that arc when it came down to when he was working for the ministry, and there was some tension between the minister and Dumbledore. Dumbledore was obviously proclaiming that Voldemort was back, and the minister's like, no, you're crazy. And so,
Very much political of him.
yeah, your boy Percy
Yeah.
chose the ministry over the Weasleys.
And it wasn't until the the Hogwarts war that he decided, hey, you know what? There's people over here dying. I think I'm going to go help them out. Yeah.
So he got a good redemption there. He did end up getting married to a witch named Audrey, and they had 2 daughters, Molly and Lucy.
Yeah, I think in the end he chose the right path. I mean, when you're growing up, there's so much pressure on you to define who you are and what you're going to be that, sometimes maybe that's all you think about. And that's kind of what happened with him.
Well, and you do, so to his point, his father... So the Weasleys are a pure blood family.
Yeah.
They've been around forever, and we'll talk about their lineage in a moment. But they're also known as what are called blood traders. And the pure bloods, like the Malfoys, and really Slytherin, like most all of the Slytherins are pure blood. There are a couple of halvesies in there, very famous, half-bloods in there. But so, and because of where Arthur works in the ministry, he's kind of looked down upon.
Yeah.
So there's kind of another thing where he's with the minister, he's with undersecretary, he's with, Barty Crouch. He's really trying to make a name for himself, and he's afraid that if he's affiliated with his dad or with the Weasleys, then that will kind of stymie his
although he works
growth.
in the ministry, he's got like a lower end type of job, and he's the kind of like the guy at the bottom that has to deal with all the political crap going on inside there, and it's like, why are we doing it like this? And, yeah. So, okay, now we're going to get to Fred and George, and man, throughout the books, we're just going to learn so much about them. So Fred was part of Dumbledore's army as well as the Second Order. He opened with his brother, the Weasleys' Wizard Wheezes, and was a huge jokester, but sadly he died after the war. Now, like I said, we're just going to get into these guys and rip them apart as the books go, but they're so smart. They make their own inventions. That joke shop was full of stuff that they invented. I would be hard-pressed to say that anything in there was something another joke store would have.
For sure. And how did they finance that joke shop?
Oh, we all know that. Harry Potter gave him his Tri-Wizard winnings. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, so he was obviously killed in the Battle of Hogwarts, the Second Wizarding War. And he was laughing. So he died with a smile on his face.
Yeah.
And cool story, just because I love acting, when they were shooting the scene following that in the Great Hall, where George is now crying over his dead brother, they had to stop filming. Because the brother, I can't remember if it's Oliver or which one, but was like uncontrollably sobbing.
Oh, nice.
Because looked. Yeah, I mean, like he was in it, right? You're like that's. Well, have you ever seen that one interview where it's like, are you guys twins in real life? And they're like, no, we met each other at the audition. It's like, what kind of? But the fact that he looks down and he's like, oh, this is my brother just died in a war, and he's like, it got to me, and they had to hug, and he stood. They hugged for a while, and people like turned away so they could have this moment, and it was like.
I mean, they're obviously close in real life. I mean.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, everything I see, I usually don't see one of them, whether that's by design or not. I
Yeah.
usually, well, there has been times where I see them separate, and I know they're sort of into different things, but there's a bond between twins that
For sure.
unless you're a twin, you won't understand. So
Yeah. Yeah. And what position did Fred play in Quidditch?
he was a beater,
That's right.
right? Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about George, who fortunately did survive the Wizarding War. Also a part of Dumbledore's army. He was part of the second, or kind of the resurgence of the Order of the Phoenix. He ran Weasley's Wizard Wheezies with Fred, and then once Fred passed away, he ran it on his own for a few years until he got a business partner. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So he later married Angelina Johnson, which they were Quidditch teammates for years at
Yeah.
Hogwarts, and they had a son.
Didn't
who
they
he named.
jokingly date too?
So the only thing in the books is that when they were in the fourth book, when they had to get dates to
Yeah.
the dance, the Triwizard Ball, I guess.
Yeah.
And Ron and Harry were like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe it!" And Fred's like, "Oh, super easy." And he looks over at Angelina, going,
Yeah.
"Yeah, sure, okay, cool, yeah, great."
Yeah,
So
they
that's
went about
kind
their
of
business. Yeah.
yeah. Then they go about their business. So they had a son who he named Fred, and a daughter named Roxanne, and he continued to run Weasley's Wizard Wheezes. I want to dive into some fan fiction
Oh yes.
on George. So some fan fiction. George was unable to produce a Patronus after Fred's death
Yeah.
because all of his best memories were with he and Fred.
Yeah.
So he was unable to produce a Patronus.
So he was just completely unable to produce a Patronus, or was it
Unable.
non-corporeal?
Just unable. I mean, maybe a non-corporeal one, but
Wow.
yeah.
I see it.
So again, fan fiction, yeah, and you can kind of feel that.
Oh yeah.
When Fred died, his spoon fell off the family clock of where
I like that. One.
it
I
tells
mean, I don't
where
like
they
it,
are.
but
Yeah.
magic. That's
And
neat.
George made a necklace and wore the spoon around his neck,
Oh, nice. Yeah.
to remember Fred. George avoided mirrors at all costs for the rest of his life
Yeah, I've heard that one. Yeah.
because he doesn't want to see Fred.
Yeah.
And the one that really gets me is when his parents got older and Molly was getting dementia.
Oh.
She would call him Fred.
Well,
And
to be
he-
fair, she called him Fred to begin with.
Called him Fred to begin with. But he would respond to her like he thought Fred would respond to her. So
I've had a couple of people in my family with dementia, so I
yeah, it's
understand all that.
no
Yeah.
joke, man. It's no joke. So there's some cool, and really thoughtful. Like, I mean, you got to realize, true Harry Potter fans identified with several parts of the books of the story on a deep level.
Yeah.
Right, on a deep level, there were several parts reading the book that I cried, and parts in the movie where it really gets to you. But and so George and Fred, I mean, one of the cool things, not cool things, but if you remember, we only learn two Weasley's Boggarts. Can you tell me who they are? I know I'm putting you on the spot, but I'm having a lot of fun with this. We learned two of the Weasleys.
Oh, Ron was spiders,
Ron was spiders, got a huge fear of spiders.
and I assume it would be one of the twins seeing their brother dead. I would assume.
So that's a great guess. We actually see Molly's
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Bogart
Molly is the one that she sees
when
her children dead.
when
Yeah.
well, and when they're cleaning out, she goes to take care of the Bogart at number 12 Grimald Place. And here's what's interesting: in the book, when she sees it and she tries to get rid of the Bogart, she sees Ron, she sees Percy, she sees Ginny, she sees Fred and George at the same time. So she doesn't see Fred dead, and then it switches to being George dead.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
sees one kid, the twins together. So not even in her worst fear
Yeah.
would she imagine that the twins would be separated. So there's it's again just little things that maybe JK did intentionally, maybe not, but it's just little things like that.
Well, she's such a great mom, and then when the wars started coming closer, you got to imagine the stress. Oh, especially with Ron running out. She knew what he was doing. I mean, he wasn't fooling anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, he thought he was, but he
Yeah.
wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I could picture Molly, quote unquote, believing, that Ron was in bed sick and all that stuff, just to try to trick herself. Like, oh yeah, he's upstairs, he's in bed,
Yeah.
So
She knew.
yeah. Well, speaking of Ron, it can't go unrecognized that Ron was a huge part in the downfall of you-know-who. Could the downfall have happened if Ron were not part of the trio? Probably. However, the outcome would have been dramatically different. Ron was not only in Dumbledore's army, he was a co-founder. He, however, was not part of the Order because he was hunting Horcruxes alongside Harry and Hermione Granger. After the war, it seems he became an Auror, which kind of threw me off because he never did he ever express interest in being an Auror? I know Harry did, but did
No,
Ron?
it was Harry's thing, and I think it was probably the logical choice for a lot of the graduating, because I remember I was a sophomore in high school or a junior in high school, 2001, when 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
And that prompted a lot of the graduating class that year to join the armed services.
Oh wow.
So the fact that this happened, really during their seventh year, because Ron and Harry didn't return to Hogwarts to finish. They didn't redo their 7th year. Hermione did, but
Of course she did.
of course she did. But Ron and Harry didn't. So it's almost like that is the logical, if you go through something that traumatic due to bad wizards.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, like let's make sure that this doesn't happen again.
Yeah. And like you said, he did not return to Hogwarts for his 7th year, but after 2 years of being an Auror, he decided to work at Weasley's Wizard Wheezes with his brother George. He eventually married Hermione. No way. And had 2 children.
Spoiler alert.
Rose and Hugo. So yeah, George's new partner in crime became Ron, which is quite ironic, but I can see exactly why,
Yep.
but
Yep.
they gave him such a hard time every time he walked in there. How about this? Oh, 5 galleons, but I'm your brother. Well, 10 galleons.
Yeah, 10 kinds in. Okay, so I don't know if this is reversed, isn't it? You can't read it.
No, I can see it.
So this is my daughter got this for Christmas.
Yeah.
The Harry Potter Wizarding Almanac, and
I don't think I have that.
I thought you were talking to somebody.
No,
Okay,
I'm looking at my book.
so we're gonna go to the Ronald Weasley page.
Oh, wow.
We're gonna go through some stuff. I'll ask you.
There you go, yeah.
Some of these are easy. Okay, what's his Bogart?
Spiders.
What's his full name?
Ronald Bilious Weasley. I mean, that brings me to his outfit for the ball.
Yes.
It was just atrocious. And then you learn his name is Bilious. It's like, oh, well, That sucks.
Yeah. But it was after an uncle. We learned that it
Yeah.
was after an uncle or a great uncle or something like that. Okay, what was his owl's name?
Oh,
And who gave him the owl?
he had two owls, didn't he?
So there was a family owl,
Yeah, there's a family owl.
and then later he was gifted an owl from Sirius.
I can't think of the name.
Pigwidgeon.
Pigwood, yeah. He called it
Pigwidgeon.
Pig. Yeah.
Yeah. Ron's second wand,
Well,
unicorn hair
Jenny
willow.
named him.
Ginny named him. Yeah,
Yeah.
Ginny.
Yeah.
What was his favorite Quidditch team?
The I want to say the Holly something, but that's not right.
No, that's who Ginny played. It's the Chudley Cannons.
Chudley can't. Yeah, I knew it was
The
something.
Chudley Cannons.
Something weird.
Okay, name me some of his hand-me-downs.
Well, his wand. I would assume his clothes.
Charlie's
His rat.
wand, Bill's robes, Percy's rat.
Yeah.
That also said a cauldron from Charlie and a broomstick from Charlie.
Poor Ron.
Let's
That's how it
see.
works when you have a lot of children. But
What was his favorite hobby? He was really good at it.
chess.
Yeah, wizard chess. Let's see. So here's an interesting one as well. In year 5, he became a prefect. Right? He became a Gryffindor prefect along with Hermione. Do you think it should have been Harry? Because we learn why it wasn't Harry.
I think Dumbledore would have assumed Harry being a prefect would have went to his head or been too overwhelming for him. Harry had a lot of anxiety. But
he was a
Ron,
very teenager in book 5.
well, Ron had a lot of anxiety too. I mean, when he goes to play Quidditch, he's terrible at it for how good you would expect him to be, for how much he studies
Yeah.
Quidditch and talks about it. He's just in his head too much. But I think Ron it gave him a sense of satisfaction, a sense of being, a sense of pride, a way to give him positive thoughts about himself instead of thinking so negatively all the time.
Yeah, it's true. Personally, I think it should have been Harry for many reasons.
I don't think he would have had time, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't think he would have performed the job well because he's always going off and doing something different. I can see why many people would say, "Oh, it should have been Harry," but when you think about it, he would have been terrible at it. In my opinion, I think he would have done a terrible job.
Well, I think a lot of people would have, Harry still had the lore. Harry still had the legend of being the boy who lived.
But I am.
And so for him being a prefect, it made sense. And you look at the kind of student that Ron was, and you're like, you're not a prefect.
Yeah.
Like you're not a prefect at all.
It might have had something to do with Hermione being one of his closest friends too. That might have had something to do with it.
Yeah, very possible. Oh, we never got into the fan fiction of Percy. I meant to bring up the fan fiction of Percy.
All right, go ahead. We can start.
Percy, yeah, we'll talk about it. So the theory of why Percy is Percy. Percy was the third of 7. And so when you read the books, Percy's always kind of a loner. He's always kind of in his room doing his own thing.
That's kind of
And
how
so and so they talk about when he was born, Charlie and Bill were already friends. They were already playmates, and he was just kind of the younger brother. And so he's like, oh, man, well, when the next one comes along, well, then the twins were born, and the twins had each other.
Yep.
And then Ron was born, and a year later, Ginny was born. So Ron and Ginny, they were close in age and had everything in common. So Percy never really had a sibling that he was close with. growing up. And so, a lot of people, the fan theory is that, that's why it was so easy for him to
Branch
choose
out.
the ministry over the family because he never really had that close attachment.
Yeah, I like
Because
it.
he was just kind of stuck there
Yeah.
in the middle.
Yeah. And how many more children do we have to talk about?
Let's go to my girl who was
Number 7.
much better in the book than she was in the films. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Famous for a what hex that isn't even mentioned in the movies?
Is it the Bat Bogey Hex?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bat Bogey
Don't
Hex.
ask me what that is because I don't know. But
Yeah, Ginny is actually a powerful witch. They don't talk about her magical talent enough.
oh, Molly.
in-
Talk about powerful Molly.
Oh
Ooh,
yeah,
we'll get to her.
Molly's
Woohoo.
good. So we've got what is Ginny's full name?
What's Generva?
What's
But
her middle name? This is very easy. Don't overthink it.
oh, you're talking to the wrong person about who we're thinking. Generva. I don't know her middle name.
Molly, Generva Molly.
Really? Okay.
Because it was
I never knew
it's
that.
William Arthur. So Bill, the oldest, was after
Yeah.
the middle name after the dad, and then you got Generva Molly after the mom.
Okay. Wow, I never knew that.
Yeah, Generva Molly. She was part of Dumbledore's army. Always had a crush on Harry.
Would you say she was an unofficial part of the order?
An Order of the Phoenix?
Yeah,
I-
like
I would-
unofficial.
Well, so I would include anybody that...
And Ron as well. I mean,
Yeah.
unofficial.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. They were all fighting, like Lupin when he was underground with, the werewolves. That was order business.
Yeah,
Technically,
they were all part of it in some way,
Yeah.
shape, or form.
Yeah, because they were. I mean, what Neville and Ginny and Luna did during the 7th year at Hogwarts
Oh yeah.
is exactly what Dumbledore would have wanted them to do. Right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so Dumbledore started the Order of the Phoenix. So I would say everybody that showed up.
Well,
I would-
Molly's reasoning for Jenny not actually being in it was because she was underage, which I don't
You're
think
just too
matters.
young.
I don't think
Yeah.
mattered at that point.
Yeah, when she had been resisting Snape and the Carrows all year.
Yeah.
Right? So
See, they,
okay.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah. So during the war, she helped reform Dumbledore's army alongside Neville and Luna. Right before the war starts, Snape is the headmaster, and he was chased out by Professor McGonagall, whom we love.
That's one of one of the added, I guess, added scenes, I guess you could say, in the movie is when
When
she was
Snape
battling.
deflects.
Yeah, when he would deflect, like,
Yeah.
oh, that was. I don't
Yeah.
think I've never heard anybody complain about that, and I never noticed it at first. It took me a couple times to go, wait a minute, what?
Well, and here's what's cool about it. A lot of people know what he did, but if you slow it down, so if you don't know what we're talking about, go back and watch the film, the scene where all of the students are in the Great Hall. Snape is up front, and the Carrows, who are Death Eaters,
Yeah, you stood
are
where you
behind him.
stood.
Such a great scene. So Professor McGonagall steps up, also a very powerful witch, and she and Snape have this duel, and I use quotation marks if you're not watching this. They have this duel. Snape never attacks Professor McGonagall. No. She attacks him, and he deflects her spells. One hits one Carrow, one hits the other Carrow. And then she keeps at him. And anyway, so when he supposedly, some people say he turned in, like he's an animagus, turned into a bat. Some people just say he can fly like Voldemort can fly without a broomstick. If you slow it down, here's what's really cool. If you slow it down, he actually, before he goes out the window, he hops from one Carrow to the other Carrow, takes their
Takes their
wands
wands.
before leaving.
Yeah,
Like,
okay, yeah.
how
That's
cool is that? But in the heat of the moment, I don't think anybody there noticed any of that,
well, I don't think
right?
anybody went. That's not in the books. I think everybody went. Holy, that was
Super cool.
a work of art. Oh,
Super cool.
something you
Okay.
don't notice if you're not paying full attention.
Yes.
Uh,
So, what positions did Ginny play in Quidditch? And why did she play multiple positions?
I th- she played seeker.
Why and when?
I would assume it had something to do with Harry and when. Man.
Harry got banned
Okay, so she
in
took over his
it,
position.
yeah, but when he came back, she played Chaser.
Chaser, yeah.
Yeah. And she was very good. She was very good. She
Oh, she always
actually,
practiced with her brothers, yeah.
yeah, so she played
And she was kind of the
professionally.
child that had to fight for what she wanted. You know, girl, hey, what, you try to protect them,
Yeah.
but she's like, no, I could do this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's fiery. I don't know if that came across in the movies, but
not really. Everybody says
she's
the movies did not do her justice.
she did. Yeah, I don't think they did her justice. Now, I'm still of the Harry and Hermione should have ended up together. Like if you're reading it for the first time, you're like, oh, obviously Harry and Hermione are going to end up together. And J.K. even says later on, she's like, yeah, they should have ended up together, but I was like stubborn as a writer. Like I'm not going to make that happen. Which
Well, they
cool
say
because
opposites attract, so maybe that's what she was going
sure,
for.
yeah, and I mean,
I mean, me
Harry
and
and
my
Hermione,
significant other, we're completely different.
yeah. Well, she obviously has terrible taste in men. You know what I'm saying? Like that's one thing. I've never met her, but we know. That's what I tell people. They're like, "Oh my gosh!" They meet my wife. They're like, "Ah, she's so beautiful," and I'm like, "Yeah, but she has terrible taste in men." You know, that's a big red flag right there.
Yeah, my girlfriend's. I forget so much. Just like when we do these quizzes, like on the spot. I'm like, what? And then she'll come over. Remember this time when we? Nope. Well, what
I do
about this?
not.
Nope. Oh, that means you don't love me.
Let me
No, that
stop you
just
there.
simply means I
Just
don't
fill me
remember.
in. Don't ask me if I remember. Just fill me in on what
Yeah,
happened.
yeah,
So Ginny after Hogwarts, she and Hermione got to finish their seventh year together, which I thought was cool. Not for Hermione, but for Ginny. She became a professional Quidditch player for the Holyhead Harpies. After that, she retired. She became a Quidditch correspondent, which is cool. Married Harry Potter, had 3 children: Lily, Luna Potter, James Sirius Potter, and Albus Severus Potter.
Which they get a lot of crap for those names.
They were a little heavy-handed,
Yeah.
but
James Sirius Potter. Okay, yeah.
I
But
could
then,
get that. That's for Harry's dad and godfather. Like I get
yeah.
that.
Albus Severus Potter. I mean,
That's a bit much. It's a
yeah,
bit much. You
yeah.
know,
It's
I could have if he I would have preferred a Rubius like in there like over
right,
you know what I'm saying. But
right.
it is what it is. I get why she chose those names.
Lily Luna Potter. They kind of fit together. They're similar. James Sirius
Yeah.
Potter. They fit together. Albus Severus Potter. They kind of clash.
And I
Yeah,
get it.
Albus
Again,
Rubius Potter. That has more of a ring to it. And
yeah.
they were so close with Hagrid too.
Well, and a
So
lot
close.
of people were like, uh, there's a fan fiction with art out there where they name Harry has a daughter that they name Lily Rubeus Potter, and they call her Ruby,
Oh,
and
yeah.
and it shows a picture Hagrid with this little bundle, and he's just crying, little
That's great.
Ruby, so super cool stuff like that. But I digress.
Uh,
I
well,
digress.
so I digest. I tell everybody I digest, and one
I
of my friends
digress.
is like, You spelled digress wrong. I said, yeah. I'm a dad, so
Yeah,
it's
that's
just
right.
what comes out. So now we went through all 7 kids, which, if I got to be honest, I would say we're not. If justice was a meter, we're probably on like maybe a 5 or 6 on that justice
Yeah,
scale for them.
yeah.
You know.
Especially with the twins, Ron and Ginny. We could do a lot more with Percy as well,
Oh yeah, but
but
we will do a lot more later.
yeah.
But for now, we're just sticking with the immediate family. And now we have Molly Weasley, and she is originally a Pruitt. 30th. I hate when dates are written like that. Born October 30th, 1949 or 1950. She was an English pure-blood witch and a matriarch of the Weasley family. After marrying Arthur Weasley, she was born into the Pruitt family and was a sister to Fabian and Gideon Pruitt, members of the original Order of Phoenix. Molly attended Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry and was sorted into Gryffindor House. So, another Gryffindor, eh?
Yeah.
Another Weasley, eh? Sometime after she graduated, both of her brothers were murdered by Death Eaters in the First Wizarding War. She also played a large part in the life of the famous Harry Potter, acting as a motherly figure towards him. Molly was a member of the revived Order of Phoenix following the return of Lord Voldemort and participated in the final battle of the Second Wizarding War. Now, I would assume when do you think she was a co-founder of the revived Order of the Phoenix? I would assume she was.
I wouldn't say a co-founder because Dumbledore was over the order both times.
Yeah.
Right. He was over it, and then he kind of invited the
I would assume she
people
welcomed
in.
everything with open arms and did everything she could, no questions asked.
Well, and I would
I mean, she was
disagree
real stressed out about it.
vehemently. Yeah, and exactly. I think, I don't think she wanted Bill and Charlie to do anything with it.
She's worried
Fred
about her
George,
family,
she, as a mom during war, I
She wanted to do what was right, but keep her family safe at the same time.
yeah, that's tough. That's a tough position to be in.
But then when your kids are at the school with all the people and they want to do what's right as well,
Yeah.
it's a moral dilemma thing you got going on.
I saw a meme the other day. It's like, I love Harry Potter, but I just don't get it. I would never die to save my school.
You know what? Yeah. Whoever said that had a point. Oh no, they're destroying the school. Let's go back to bed.
Oh, yeah. Terrible. Just terrible.
So her actions during the Battle of Hogwarts caused her to be known as the witch that defeated and killed the notorious Death Eater Bellatrix Lestrange, which actually gave her. She's a badass. I mean, she's a badass in every right. I mean,
I wanted Harry to be the one to kill Bellatrix, or I wanted Neville to be the one to kill Bellatrix. Because she and her husband tortured Neville's parents.
But man, nobody knew how powerful she did not use the Avada Kedavra, which is, I mean, whatever spells she used, and we'll get to it when we get there. But it just, oh man, unexpected, completely unexpected. Not my daughter, you. It
was a nonverbal. She did a nonverbal spell.
Right.
In the heat of battle. It's crazy.
Well, I mean, if you look at their house, don't most spells, like, you have to be like present for the spell to continue working, I would assume, and she could not even be home and the house is still cleaning itself.
Present or alive? I think you just have to be alive because, like, Barty Crouch Jr. under the Imperious Curse, and he was still going into the Ministry, and he left Winky there to keep him there. So I don't think. I guess so. I think at least maybe for powerful witches and wizards, you don't have to be present.
Yeah.
But you do have to be alive.
Yeah.
Because when Dumbledore dies,
Yeah.
Secret Keeper to Grimmauld Place breaks. Harry's ready to move. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
But
good question.
so she survived the battle to see her family expand even further. By 2017, she had 12 grandchildren, which I know we introduced all the kids, but man, it just seems like a low number when I say it out loud. So we have Victoria Weasley, Dominique Weasley, Victoire,
Victoire.
Victoire Weasley, Dominique Weasley, Louise Weasley, Molly Weasley, Lucy Weasley, Fred Weasley, Roxanne Weasley, Rose Granger Weasley, Hugo Granger Weasley, James Sirius Potter, Albus Severus Potter, and Lily Luna Potter. Huh.
Maybe that's why Harry's kids are very heavily Potter related, because
I was
Molly
gonna say
and
it's
Arthur
curious
and Fred.
they kept the Potter instead of Weasley. I mean, usually,
Well, Ginny married Potter.
traditionally, you keep the male's name, but
Yeah.
it's
Ginny
yeah.
married Potter.
It
And I
just
could
seems to
totally
see,
see
yeah.
Hermione's kids being hyphenated. Granger Weasley. Weasley. I could totally see Hermione doing that. Very, very
Oh,
pragmatic.
totally. Yeah.
And guys, go to, there's harrypotter.com. Like, there's a ton of information. There's an entire Harry Potter wiki. What do they call it?
I think it's called Harry Potter Wiki. It's where I get a lot of my information
Yeah,
from.
Harry Potter wiki. Yeah, Harry Potter wiki. I mean, there's like most of this information, like that he just read, I got straight from there. It's it's so.
Yeah, I guess I can say for a point of reference, a lot of the information comes from Harry Potter Wiki. It comes from all different sources. Comes from the medulla oblongata, but
That's not what that does, but okay.
It's a very good place to go for
Yeah,
No,
go.
great.
There's so much more information. Like that, like those websites are packed with information.
Well, also fan fiction. So
oh man, yeah.
I mean, everybody's spin on everything's a little bit different, and you just kind of, I don't know. I guess you choose and pick what makes the most logical sense.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Yeah. So Arthur Weasley, he slightly older than Molly.
I know you're really excited about Arthur.
Arthur's.
Yeah.
He's a great character. He's a great character.
Yeah, he is.
He works for the Ministry of Magic. He was also a member of the Second Order of the Phoenix. He was not a member of the First Order of the Phoenix.
So real quick, I don't mean to keep cutting you off, but
I think you do. I think you do, Jeremiah.
okay, well, I do. I'm sitting back, relax now. But
that's right. Yeah.
I was thinking because Arthur's really serious, but he's also a little goofy. If you had to say, "Oh, he's just like this child," which child would you think Arthur would relate to the most?
I'd probably say him and Ron.
Ron.
Like just off the top of my head, because he can't get serious.
I picture the twins as well.
I mean, I can see the twins. I think the twins are a little more, because here's the thing with the twins, right? So Arthur works for the Ministry, the misuse of Muggle artifacts.
Oh, yeah.
And I can see the twins. Yeah, they make his job harder. So now, because here's the thing. The first time we meet Arthur, right? He gets home in the morning from the Ministry after Fred, George, and Ron have stolen the Ford Anglia and flew the Ford Anglia, the car to go save Harry.
Yeah.
And Molly is upset, rightfully so. And she says, Arthur, this is what just happened. And his response is, really?
Did you really? How did it go?
How did it go? How did it fly? And so, right. So
I mean, that was very wrong. Very wrong.
I mean, but you meet him right?
Yeah,
You meet
yeah.
him, and
What exactly is a function of a rubber duck?
yeah, and just his childlike curiosity of all things Muggle.
Oh,
You,
fascination. Yeah.
yeah, and so he's a good character, but he's still, very serious part of the Order of the Phoenix,
Oh, yeah.
especially later on, when it gets serious. He also has 7 kids that he wants to protect.
Yes.
And I think Molly's kind of methodology is let me pull them back to see if I can prevent them. And Arthur's is
And
we
do
have
it.
adults that are
Yeah.
capable wizards. We need more people like them
Yeah.
to do it.
I
So
mean, you always have that one person in a relationship that kind of wants to protect their children, and the other person's like, you know what? Let's.
absolutely.
I have faith in them that they will
Yeah.
do what's right, and
Yeah.
they make their own decision.
Yeah. One of the good things about Arthur is he was huge when it comes to equality, especially between wizards and muggles, and even in the wizarding community. So he was born to a pureblood family, and they did this thing, and it was I can't remember what it's called, but it was the list of the 28 families that were still pureblood. And he and Molly were like, we really don't want to have this. Is outside of the books, obviously, but he and Molly were like, no thanks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're
We
pure blood. What of it? Who cares?
yeah. So
I mean, they
yeah,
probably understand, the whole pure blood versus, mud blood
yeah,
situation, and they just don't want to be part of it. Obviously, they would support the quote unquote mud blood. So they're the definition of progression when it comes to, you know, separation. I guess they don't want the separate. What's the word I'm trying to think of?
that's a great question.
Yeah,
Your mind is a scary place.
it is. Uh, what is the word I'm thinking of? They see no difference in people. They see people as the
Sure.
same thing.
Yeah.
There's no good or bad in them. Just get along, and who cares what color you are or what you believe. They're the
Well, obviously, there's
definition
a
of
huge
that.
prejudice. There's a huge prejudice in the wizarding world by some of the pureblood families.
Yeah, they do not support it, and they show that they don't support it. They don't just say we don't
Yeah.
support that. They
Yeah.
show it with their actions.
Yeah. So Arthur also ended up with some scarring. Where did he get that?
Nagini,
Nagini. So he was guarding
the Department of Mystery.
in the Department of Mysteries, and he got attacked by Nagini. And that it was a very funny scene in the hospital, St. Mungo's, where they couldn't get it to stop bleeding. So the doctor tried to do stitches, and Molly was oh was so
No, you
upset,
didn't.
so upset. Arthur was present during what's called the Battle of the Seven Potters, right? When Harry was about to turn 17 and the protection of the Dursleys' home was going to go away. Bill was there. Fleur was there. You also had, I don't know if Charlie was there.
Which is a real big.
Yeah.
You either like
Yeah.
that or you don't like that. A lot of people are
Yeah.
like, what? Every movie, every book. Why didn't they just?
Yeah. Why didn't
It
they
takes
turn
away
into
from
other
it
people?
if they
Yeah.
just,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
So
that
he
really built to
was,
the story.
yeah. So he was there. He was in the Battle of Hogwarts. And yeah, Arthur was an all around good guy
Oh no, he liked to
and a
keep Harry Potter in the
good
loop about
dad.
what was going on, and Molly
He
was
was
like,
always
"Hey,
very
hey, hey."
fair with
Yeah,
Harry. And Harry was always very fair with Arthur. He told him about what he had overheard with Lucius, and so yeah, that was really good. But I mean, that's the Weasleys. That's at least the tip of the iceberg with the Weasleys. Again, go to those websites. You can go down the rabbit hole for hours.
Yeah, it's been an hour and 8 minutes at this point, and we've barely even touched on it. We haven't even got to their ancestry, and there's so much more with the whole family. And as we go through the books, maybe we'll wait a couple books to do another one on the Weasleys. But I just felt like they need their flowers, pretty much. I mean,
give them their due, for sure.
Yeah, there's no other way to say it, really. I mean, is there anything you would like to add to it or a takeaway from it?
No, I got nothing. But I think, other than, I'll say it again, she did a really good job. Them being kind of the central family unit of the book. We got a lot of different personalities, a lot of action, a lot of good memories, and
the fact that we could sit here and dedicate a full episode to just the Weasleys. I mean, that says a lot about her writing abilities. Oh man, I feel. I don't want to say I feel bad for the people that don't like Harry Potter, but it's like you just don't get it. Like it's so like, even if you can't relate to it, you can. You still can. Like it's so great.
Well, she introduced so many characters. You can identify. You can really see yourself in a couple of different characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to just bring the Weasleys in and be that center part of a family, it's man, they're such a huge part of the Harry Potter. They had to be talked about. So.
Yeah, man.
Well, that's all we got for this. So join us next time when we do another chapter review or maybe another Squibler. You can follow us on Instagram at Squibs Corner, YouTube at Squibs Corner. Follow my YouTube unboxing, Accio Potter Guy. I unbox all types of Harry Potter stuff. I haven't been able to buy new merch for a couple years, but that doesn't mean you can't go over there and enjoy the videos that are there.
Sure.
And yeah, well, we'll see you guys next time. I'm trying to think of a good Weasley quote to send us out with. Harry, it's you that has to go on. Not Hermione, not Hermione. You.
Here's one from Ron. And from now on, I don't care if my tea leaves spell die, Ron, die. I'm just chucking them in the bin where they belong.
There you go. That'll do.
Squibs Corner is hosted by Jeremiah Lobot and co-hosted by Andrew Beecham, myself. We would love to hear from you, so drop us a rate and review. To inquire about being a guest, or if you have questions, comments, or just want to give us your Harry Potter story, email us at squibscorner@gmail.com. To watch Harry Potter merch unboxings, follow Jeremiah's YouTube, Accio Potter Guy. Lastly, you can leave us a voice memo and follow us on Instagram at Squibs Corner Podcast.